Before we get into this episode, I would like to make a quick disclaimer that all of Society Inspired's interviews and the information we share are 100% for learning experience and to hear the different sides of the various issues we discuss. We never endorse nor support violence, and we are committed to promoting peace. I want to create a safe space for learning and comfortable place for people to be able to start to speak. Hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21st episode of Society Inspired. My name is Gemma. I'm a 16-year-old Palestinian American teen. I'm so excited to have Ritika Saraswat as our special guest for episode number 21. Would you like to introduce yourself, tell us your story, and also share your preferred pronouns, please?
Yes, for sure. So my name's Ritika and my pronouns are she/her. I am originally from India and I came to Canada about 6 years ago as an international student myself. When I came here, I wanted to become a doctor because a classic South Asian kid. I thought the only way to create an impact is by becoming either a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. And I love science, so I went with the doctor piece. But when I came here, I realized that impact lies beyond a profession. It all comes down to how do you make the most of where you're at and what you're doing. So once I realized that, I think I started kind of keeping myself open to different opportunities, and surprisingly or coincidentally ended up coming across the business side of things. One thing led to another. I started working as a freelance consultant for startups and nonprofits out of Canada and the US, more in terms of the business strategy side of things. And once I did that, I worked in the higher education space as well for 2 years, just drafting mentorship programs for international students.
Yeah.
And while I was in that process, I started realizing like a few gaps that exist in the educational space, whereby unless you're a business student or a commerce student, no one really teaches you about business. No one teaches you about networking, the importance of public speaking and marketing, which I think is the essence of today. No matter what job you're in, I think being able to sell yourself and being able to advocate for yourself is like key to being successful,
Yeah.
irrespective of whatever you define success as. So
Yeah.
that's when Redefine, my organization, was born. So I'm also the CEO and the founder of that organization, which has been around for 1.5 years, hoping to empower international students. And I currently also work in Deloitte as a part of the human capital consulting team. And I've been with Deloitte for about 7 months now.
Awesome. Okay, well, since I haven't touched on this topic in the campaign yet, could you please give us a definition of what is meant by redefining education?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the terminology redefined is very central to me because I think, at least for a lot of us who come from BIPOC communities or are even immigrants overall, I feel like there's a lot of stereotypes and judgments constantly placed on us, which I think sometimes shields us from who we really are
Yeah.
and from what our capabilities really are. So the whole terminology of that redefine is more about enabling individuals to kind of move beyond those ideologies that others have about them and realize for themselves what their potential and capability is. And applying that idea to education is more about how, today with AI also coming into the picture, I think education is changing. I don't think we can anymore engage in the traditional forms of education, which requires every student to fill out an exam, which assesses them in a traditional format. I think today it's about becoming more creative because you have tools out there that can replicate those answers, right? That can produce those grades that you want. So I think it's about being able to also redefine education and not centralize it on grades, maybe, but it's more about shifting it to a focus on learning, which I think are two separate things.
Yes, awesome. Okay, completely agree. You in your intro, you did say about how you started your advocacy, but could you dig more into that on what started your like long journey of advocacy for redefining education?
Yeah, I think like the reason I even got started on that journey is through my own experiences, right? Like as I said, I came here to pursue kinesiology, so more of the science fields.
Mhm.
And one thing I realized is in my entire class, I think we were a cohort of about 200 people. I realized each one of us, we were just focused too much on the theory. You know, when I first came to North America, I was like, yes, finally, practical learning.
Yeah.
Don't think much of that happened either, because I realized that there's a discrepancy that exists based on the kind of stream or the career you are pursuing. And you know, like most often the traditional fields like, you know, science, law, etc., they
Mm.
are still very theoretical in nature, which makes sense. But I think with the changing times, having that practicality through experiences, co-ops, in the ground in field experiences becomes important, and I found that to be missing. Secondly, I feel like whenever I spoke to students, I started realizing both within Canada, and I even come to the underprivileged communities as well. But even when I was talking to students within Canada, I realized how when they were graduating, almost 60% of students felt they did not have what it takes. And for me, in my head, I was thinking is, wait a second, they're spending 4 years of their life, so much amount of money, close to almost like, you know, $500,000 or whatever they're spending. And it's, if it's still leaving someone unsure about what they want to do, are we really doing it the right way for them?
Mm.
Right? Because you would imagine, like they say, if you spend 10,000 hours, you become an expert. So why is it that when students have invested 4 years into an education, they come out feeling not an
Ready.
expert, or in fact feeling more confused than ever before, right?
Yeah.
um, and then even from the perspective of working with underprivileged communities, I started realizing, because of that traditional format of examinations and because of the traditional type of learning, which obviously is costly, right? Learning through a teacher in a classroom, etc., a lot of kids don't even have access to classrooms, right? So I think redefining learning to mean something, redefining education, for example, to mean something more than just grades, or to mean more than just than textbooks, but actual just having a sense of awareness and understanding of things around them, I think is key. Right, at the end of the day, for someone who comes from a low socioeconomic background, they don't care about the geography, but what they really care about, can they process what's happening around them? Do they understand, you know, the climate idea of things? Do they
Yeah.
understand menstruation? Do they understand the importance of sexual education as well, which I think is a part of our day to day, right? So I
Yeah.
think it's just those pieces which I realized were missing, and I feel like there's more that needs to be done about that.
For sure. Wow, because I've thought about this for so long, especially I mean, I'm homeschooled now, but when I went to real school
Yeah.
even, I was younger, but I felt like there were so many more parts that could be implemented that could benefit my growth. And also, I have horrible test anxiety, but it was always about that.
Yeah.
Like that's what deems you successful. And I remember coming home and my parents being like, "Well, that doesn't mean you're not successful." But I was just like,
Exactly.
"Why are we?" Yeah. Okay.
No, and I think to
Yeah.
your point, it's also about the way we assess students, right? Like some students are more visual learners, for example.
For sure.
So if you make them sit in a classroom and just stare at a desk or at a board all day, you
Yeah.
cannot expect them to learn, right? Maybe listening to a podcast or maybe listening something like that is what makes them learn more, right? So I think us as institutions or even as teachers or mentors being able to provide students with information that aligns with their learning needs becomes so important, right? And maybe even having different forms of assessments. It shouldn't always be the classic examination, right?
Yeah.
It could be maybe situational based questions, right? Asking, putting students in a particular situation and asking them how they would react to this, right?
Yeah.
Letting them figure it out, which helps them apply some of the knowledge instead of them feeling like they're forced to study it just for the sake of getting a certain grade, right? um yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so we kind of talked about this, but why is redefining education key as students grow up in a multifaceted and often challenging environments, especially in the new world?
Yeah.
Because so many things are changing right now.
Exactly. And I feel like, like when it comes to even educating students about sexual orientation, I think it's becoming such a big topic today. And I think it's incredibly important. But knowing what's the right balance to expose students to this information, I think it's another thing, right? We don't want to overwhelm anyone. I think. I mean, obviously, when we're kids, I think we have an incredible capacity from a neuroplasticity perspective of getting information,
Yeah.
but I think still it's like, how do you draw the balance? I honestly don't know the answer to that, I would say. But I think it's just about making sure we're not doing too much of anything. But in a sense, I would say that redefinition of education, what it means, what are the criteria that we use to assess someone's success at school, I think that definitely needs to change. I
Yeah.
think specifically with AI also coming into the picture, today I think the focus needs to shift from technicality to soft skills, because technicality can be replicated, right, through certification and other things. That's something AI can be taught,
Mhm.
can, but imitating human emotions,
Mhm.
having that sense of interaction that you have with a person, emotional well-being, etc., that is something it cannot imitate so well. So
Yeah.
like I think a lot of people have started to get scared of AI, but in fact, anything, I'm so grateful for it, because I feel it's pushing us in the right direction, whereby it's helping us become more strategic about our decisions. Today, for example, like you have so many people, even later on when you get a job, right? There are some jobs which are so manual in nature. I think it's great that those tasks are being automated, right? Then it gives the person time and energy to actually invest in focusing more on the strategic side of things, rather than having to think so much to even write an email or prepare like a draft message or something, right? Which now Chat GPT just makes your life easier,
Mhm.
right? So I think it's kind of like that balance. So I feel like instead of fearing things that are coming up and feeling anxious about it, I think it's about how do you come together with what's existing out there to
Yeah.
just become much better and much stronger than before.
Yes. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. This so many things that I've thought about like school and stuff like you're touching on, and I guess I didn't know there was an area of activism for this, and so I'm excited. Um, so you founded a very impactful organization called Redefine Canada. What are some steps you take in your organization to make a global impact for students?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think like one thing we are really trying to focus on is not just give students with the access to education, but also give them the opportunity to apply that education.
Yes.
And I think even when I say education, it's not the academic education that I'm referring to, but we basically focus on providing students in education in three different areas. It starts with more of the social issues
Mhm.
awareness education, which is more around topics like climate and sustainability, sexual and menstrual education, awareness around sexual abuse, and the idea of consent, because I think those are incredibly important today, and it applies to every part and phase of your life, right? Whether you're a kid, when you enter a relationship, when you're working at a professional capacity as well, taking those things into account. The second piece is more of the upskilling portion, helping students develop skills that help them prepare for the real world. And in
Yeah.
the real world today, no one's going to ask you, hey, where is so and so country based, or what's the capital of so and so place? No one cares about that. What people care about is how do you bring yourself to work? How do you present yourself to someone else, right? What do you have to bring to the table in terms of skill sets? So things like leadership, problem solving, public speaking, big one, and I think so important today. Even marketing in general, how do you market yourself, and how do you leverage your experiences to present yourself to the market? I think those things. And I think lastly would be is helping students also get educated on giving back, the importance of giving back, creating that sense of community as well. And I think to do all three of these, we try and give them access to opportunities. Now this may come in the form of like events that we host. We host a lot of like so social events like meetups. We have one today happening as well.
Yeah.
Or we also host a lot of like workshops, seminars, conferences. We have this fellowship program as well to give students an opportunity to gain skill sets, develop experience, but at the same time give back to the communities because they're working on a social impact project during that period. And they get to work with people across the globe, right? Like the current one we have people from Japan, Canada, US, and India, and even a few people in Africa working together towards certain social impact issues. So something like that, right? So I think those are some of the and resources. A big one that we're working on right now is we're hoping to raise funds about $2,000 to build a school in Pakistan. So I think there are those initiatives also. And I think one thing, if I can just point out, what I've realized is we think a dollar is less, but it has such a huge impact. When we did like a fundraiser for a school in Africa, in Ghana, every chair in that school costs $2.
Wow.
So, and each chair that you donate means each student being provided an opportunity to study at a school. So
Yeah.
imagine the impact that that $2 of a
Yeah.
black coffee that you get could actually have on someone's life, right? But I think we still find people being hesitant to do that,
Yeah.
right? Why is that? So, education around that too. But yeah, I would say that's the overall picture.
Sure. How do we make this school environment safe so students can redefine themselves in the ways that they want to and move past the typical stereotypes they may face from that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yeah, no, I think to be honest, I don't even know if I know the answer to it, but I think the simplest way I think to do that is listen to students first. Make them a part of conversations. I think that's what's happened for the longest time. Whether we talk about gender, whether we talk about uplifting marginalized communities, whatever fancy terminologies we use, we are never really making people who belong to those groups and communities a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
The key is to bring them in because they are the best people to tell you what they need, what is something that they would benefit from, and what they're looking forward to. So I think it would start from there. The leadership positions at schools are a great way to do that. But I think moving forward to that is having some of that representation whereby even people at that age group get to sit down with people who are 40, 45 year old at the senior level of universities and having conversations with them, running through them some of the ideas and initiatives the university is taking and see what is their thoughts and perspectives on it. I think that would be the first one. Second one is, I think, giving exposure to experiences. I feel like for the longest time, co-ops, the co-ops that universities offer, they for the longest time have been just limited to universities. I think they should be a part of the high school experience as well.
Yeah.
Students should be given an opportunity to not just get educated, but start getting experience. And I know in North America, I see a lot of students working at cafes and other things, to get paid as well, to pay for their own fees and other things. But instead of that, what if we directed them or gave them opportunities to not just earn money for themselves, but also
Yeah.
build skills that can make them so much more ready for the future. Today, you have people entering into the freelance business, right? You have so many students becoming entrepreneurs at the age of 14, 15, which tells us what is that, again, education needs to be redefined.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship, earning money, being career driven is not just for university students and post that. I think the age has come lower to even 12 years old, and I'm seeing these people do a fantastic job, but they don't have access to the best resources that they should need to be
Yeah.
able to do that, right? So I think those two would be the biggest.
So, how do we extend focus onto other general skills and create awareness around specific topics like menstrual or sexual health rather than only focusing? Like, what steps can we take to promote that?
Yeah, I think from an individual's perspective in general, I would say
Yeah.
is just by talking about it. That's the first way to start, right? Like being comfortable, and making people around you also comfortable with those conversations.
Yeah.
Like for example, like even like let's say if you're a girl who is menstruating right now, being comfortable to talk in front of like other genders as well about, hey, like, you know, I'm on my periods right now, I'm bleeding today, you know, whatever terminology you want to
Yeah.
use. Using things like pads, tampons, using those terms. I sometimes see people skip those terms even when they're trying to convey those ideas. So I think being very confident and comfortable about it.
Yeah.
And that's why for that, one thing we're also trying to do is make men a part of the conversation, actually. Have them listen and have them
Yeah.
see things. There was a recent trend that went on TikTok, you know, where they take a glass of water and they put the tampon into it or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to get it started, right? So that I think it makes the other person realize, okay, wow, this is what the person goes through, right? Like that means, like, you know, we should be creating opportunities to give them, like, in the professional space, I feel we don't have period leaves, but I think we should. You know,
Yeah.
that's, I think, something so important because you get mood flows, you know, you get severe cramps. How can you expect someone to function properly
For
if
sure.
that's what they're going through internally, you know? So having that awareness and education there. um but I think from a student's perspective also, I would say start taking leadership and ownership, right? I think school and university are the best years in the sense that you have that sense of support from the community of that school or university you're in. So leverage those resources and those connections. Reach out to the deans, reach out to the main principal or whoever it is, your teachers. Let them know, hey, I want to host a workshop, or I want to
Yeah.
create awareness on this issue, right? Maybe can we distribute pads amongst everyone in school, or can we maybe host a workshop just to create awareness around how a pad's worn in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So I think students also being open to take that ownership. And even like, for example, organizations like ours, we always want students to take ownership. So one thing we tell we tell a lot of students is, hey, if you have an idea on something you want to do relating to social impact,
Yeah.
come to us, we help you organize and set it up. We, in fact, will even give you the funding to set it up, and you go and execute it, because
Yeah.
our goal is to just create more impact. And
Yeah.
if you are someone who's willing to take the leadership, we're here backing you up, right? So
Of course.
don't wait for the schools to give you that support. We're here that to do that.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Are there any resources you would like my followers and I to read, watch, listen to? I already have your organization on here, so you don't need to say that.
Okay. No, I would say, like, in terms of resources, yes, definitely, like our website would be a big one to know more about the programs and initiatives that are coming up.
Yeah.
But I think, like, just following us on social media, like even Instagram, LinkedIn, I think are the best ways to be in the loop in terms of what are some initiatives, fundraisers, etc. we're doing right now. And
Yeah.
I think we're constantly looking for volunteers or people to join our team, right? So if anyone's interested in that, feel free to just reach out to us on any of our social media platforms. Feel free to reach out to me. And even like, you know, like, we're currently doing fundraisers. So as I said, even $2 or $1 makes a difference. So if you're comfortable putting that in, you know, looking forward to that. And we post about where all of that money and resources are being used. So I think you would know what student specifically did you in a way give that opportunity to by donating that money as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, and then where can my followers find you so they can keep up with you and what you're doing?
Yeah, no, I think y'all can definitely find me on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn will be the best platform. I do take very long to respond that though, if I have to be honest. But I would say connect there. You know, if you ever want to set up a call as well, there's a link in my bio to just for you to get to know more about me, or like whether you have questions relating to career, becoming an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
anything you want to do, I'm here to guide you as well. And if anyone ever wants to be a part of our student community, all you have to do is reach out.
Yeah.
Right? As simple as that. And as long as you're someone who is driven and motivated,
Yeah.
you're welcome to join us. Yeah.
All of those links will be down below in the description box. I think it's what it's called.
Yeah.
I joined LinkedIn and I
Oh,
can't figure out how to work it, but it's a step. It's a step.
yes.
Oh,
No, look at you. You said you're 16, right? I
yeah.
think that's amazing. I joined LinkedIn when I was in my 4th year of university. So I think
I was
you're
like,
definitely doing a lot better than me. No.
I was like, everybody's on LinkedIn. Like, I feel like this could be a good way for me to like connect with people. Like, I should just try. And I spent like 45 minutes trying to set up my profile. I was like, how does this
No,
work?
it takes that long, to be
Yeah,
honest. Like, man, if you ever need help with that, reach out. I think that's one thing. Like, I usually help a lot of students in is not just setting up your LinkedIn account, right? How do you start? For some people, commercializing and monetizing it. For others, it's more about how do I start driving traffic to my platform, and
yeah,
for others, it's just about how do I learn how to leverage it to make connections,
yeah,
right? So whatever kind of goal you have,
yeah,
um, we'll figure it out. I think all it takes is like a 30-minute call and you're
yeah.
ready.
Yeah, I might need that. Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this interview. Make sure you follow Rotika on all social media platforms. Check out Redefine Canada as well. And make sure to follow our other social media platforms so you don't miss out on more interviews and important information. I hope you guys enjoyed the 21st episode of Society Inspired, and we will see you guys next time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.